Hey everybody, this is the PhotoShelter webinar coming to you live from PhotoShelter World Headquarters on Union Square in New York City. I am Andrew Neeson, the Director of Product here at PhotoShelter. My team is responsible for creating products that help you showcase, share, sell, and organize your work online. Those would be websites, online image backup, e-commerce, and other professional but easy to use tools that take your business to the next level. Today's guest is Peter Krogh. Peter is a 30-plus year veteran photographer based in Washington, D.C. Peter has worked with some software companies like Microsoft, Adobe, and PhotoShelter, and is the author of the DAM book, that's DAM as in Digital Asset Management, and leads workshops for photographers and corporations worldwide. Peter's work has appeared in publications, both editorial and commercial, that are too numerous to mention in the time that we have. Today, Peter is going to teach us some good habits for keeping our image assets organized, and I'll be asking Peter your selected questions. So send them to me in the chat window in our webinar software, or feel free to tweet them to @PhotoShelter. We'll be recording today's webinar, so if you have some maybe horrible winter weather headed your way, feel free to step out and raid the grocery store. We'll be posting the screencast of the webinar on our blog soon. Keep your eyes peeled. So I am going to throw it to Peter and let him take it away. Peter, good to have you.
Thanks a lot, Andrew. It's great to be here and great to be working with PhotoShelter. And so you should see my PhotoShelter page sitting front and center. A PhotoShelter Beam, pretty cool. I've enjoyed playing with it. I'll show you just a couple of images. Andrew was showing those, some of the work that I do. As he said, I've been a photographer for 30 years, working primarily in corporate advertising, business communications. This is a set of ads I did for PBS, showcasing people who were motivated by PBS to do extraordinary things. These are some other photographs, a lot of them for PBS. They've been a good client. There's Dr. Russell Brown from Adobe. I've done a lot of work in the last couple of years in Africa, working for a nonprofit there, and shoot a lot of personal pictures, like this one of my daughter. And so you get a little bit of a flavor of my work. I really do come to this as a photographer first, and all of the work that I've done in the industry for organization and figuring out how to take care of your pictures is because I really wanted to solve this problem for myself more than anything else. So let's switch over here to Keynote, and I'm going to start by giving you a little bit of theory here about how to think about organization. And I think we'll just go ahead and launch right into it. This has all come from my most recent book called Organizing Your Photos with Lightroom 5, and it's based upon this concept of organization that I've come up with to make the process more clear and understandable. And so I've broken it down into 3 different elements: store, tag, and create. And so that's what we're going to talk today about, is how you can understand the work you do to your work in Lightroom, your work to organize your photo collection, all within this context of am I storing it, am I tagging it, or am I creating something with it? And one of the things I found is that even very experienced Lightroom users have said that this really helps them with clarity on which of the tools to use. So that's what we talk about today. Here's the book. I'm going to start with this little animated flowchart, and what I want to do is give you a concept of how these 3 elements work together. So on the storage layer, we have a set of elements, and then we have the tagging layer on top, and really the creative layer is sitting on the very top of all of that. And I really like to think of this as these 3 layers. In storage, we have a number of different elements that are common to the way that anybody stores anything. So what device do you put it on? That's going to be hard drives. and what kind of folder structure do you use, and folder and file naming process. How do you back the files up? What formats do you use to store it? And essentially this whole layer should be really organized. Essentially we want to, like I say, stack it up and back it up. We want to make this as orderly and sequential and expandable as possible. And I'm going to show you some suggestions on how you can structure this. Of course, I know that among PhotoShelter users, there's some people with some very large collections and great needs. We'll kind of look at a smaller kind of collection here to get some clarity, but a lot of this really does, all of this expands quite well up into even multi-user and very large environments. Okay, so storage, simple, orderly, sequential. Tagging is, this is where you can use metadata to help you either say what a picture is about or to find pictures. So there's date, like the information your camera puts on the picture when you shoot it. There's location tags you can put in. You can tag images for what the shoot was, the event. And then sort of going at crossways to this are the ratings, how much you like a picture. And then keywords become this kind of free-form way to say what a picture is about or what kind of concepts it illustrates. And so there's a whole set of tags. There's more than just these, but these are kind of the main ones. And they help you understand what your pictures are about. Now you can use tags to filter images. So you can say, show me only pictures from a certain date. And that's going to hide all the other pictures and let you see only, say, pictures from 2013 or just pictures from 2012. You could also use your location tags to filter and say, show me only pictures from California, and those may be widely scattered in a bunch of different places. Or you could say, show me only pictures from this particular shoot, my daughter's graduation, or a commercial portrait shoot, something like that. And then you could also filter by rating and say, show me only 3-star and above images, or show me only 5-star and above, or 5-star images. They don't have 6. This filter concept lets you hide everything that you're not looking for at a given time. And one of the things about this illustration we're seeing is that, as you can see, the pictures stay in their folders. They just kind of disappear when you're using a filter. And this is really nice because it lets you build a way to store your stuff and preserve it without, and still be able to find the pictures within this structure, but without moving it around, because moving stuff around is where you get into trouble. Okay, and of course we can cross-filter, say, show me only the 5-star images from a portrait shoot or something like that. Now, the creation layer sitting on top is where all the real important action happens. And I'll show you 2 different kind of concepts on this. And really, Lightroom is built for you to use collections to do this work. You may not have grasped that yet, but we'll definitely see by the end of this hour how that's really important. And you use collection sets to put those groups together. So let's say I have an event, and in this case we're going to talk about just getting a job out the door. So I can filter, I can use both the event tag and the rating tag to find all of the images from this shoot, and I can put them all into a collection. Then I can filter by rating and say, well, these are the images that I'd actually like to send to the client for proofing, and then the client can make their selection. And each one of these can end up being its own collection, and they can all stay bundled up in the collection set, and you can put that whole thing away. And all of this work can be done without you having to move stuff around in filters or sorry, in folders, you're just using the filter to find it, and then the collection set to manage your workflow and do your creation. And of course, when you take the filter off, everything's back exactly where it was. Now, a more complex task that we often have to deal with is, say, putting images together in a portfolio. And in this case, it's much more than simply finding some proofs to send out to the client or finding the one image to send out. In this case, what I've done conceptually here is to filter by 5 stars, so we only see just those pictures, and those can all be collected together in a collection that's all candidates that might be good in my portfolio. And then I can further refine the selection process using collections and create, say, a final group of images that would be a good portfolio. And I can even further refine that and make additional collections and create additional types of portfolios or additional output by using different collections, and this lets you leverage the work you've done. So if I've made a good portfolio collection, now I can hop off of that and make a second one, for a different client or a different medium. And again, all of that stuff can be bundled up in the portfolio collection set. And with the exception of the files we're sending out, and that's a different set of questions we'll look at later, all of the originals can stay exactly where they were in the folders, and the whole folder structure stays really stable. So
Peter, let me jump in real quick and ask you a question that just came in. And this actually relates to something I was working on earlier today. I'm working on a spec for a Lightroom plugin for PhotoShelter, and we use this term collection at PhotoShelter a little differently than Lightroom uses it. At PhotoShelter, we've got collections and galleries are stored inside of collections. To make things even more a little bit confusing, Lightroom uses the same term collection, but their term collection means a PhotoShelter gallery, and a PhotoShelter collection is a Lightroom collection set. So we got a question here about collections and smart collections. And I was wondering if you could address that a little bit, or maybe if you are planning on addressing that later in the presentation, we can defer that question.
Yeah. Okay.
They're interested in knowing the difference.
Yeah. So let's start with the bigger question. And the bigger question is that we have this term collection, and we have that as kind of a conceptual term, right? Like, I'm going to collect images together to make a little pile of slides. And then we have very specific applications of the term collection, like the collections panel in Lightroom, or how the word collection is used in PhotoShelter. And for the most of this presentation, when I refer to the term collection, I'm really going to be talking about collections as they are implemented here in Lightroom, the collections panel. But I will do my best whenever possible, if I'm describing the concept of a collection rather than a Lightroom collection in the Lightroom collections panel, I'll try and be clear about that. And that is it's a little bit confusing. I'm going to get to the difference between collections and smart collections in a minute, because that really happens at the bridge between talking about tagging and creating. But it's I think that I will be able to illuminate that for the listener pretty well. What I'd like to do here first is to actually go through store, tag, and create in Lightroom so you can actually see what's what. And I'll talk a little bit about best practices for storage and how you might want to think about putting your folders together, how I suggest you put your folders together. And then we'll move on and talk about tags, and the two places we'll work most for that are in the keywords list panel over on the right hand side, and then I'm hitting the backslash bar, and we'll also look up at tags in the metadata panel, and particularly the filter bar is really a wonderful place to do your filtering. And then we'll look over here at the collections panel as the place that we do the work to create. And in this case, we'll dive into, for instance, the portfolios section, collection sets that I've created, and we'll talk about how to approach that problem. And then we'll also take a look at published services, which is where you can actually push those images out for, push it up to a PhotoShelter collection, or you could push it out to Dropbox, or just simply send it off to your client in whatever means you use. So let's start by talking about storage. And if you do get any, let me run through this, Andrew, and then once I get to the end of storage, if there are further storage questions, we'll take a look at that. So let's start at the beginning. The folders panel in Lightroom is actually showing you real folders. These are real folders on a hard drive. If I go over and show the hard drive here, this is the stunt double drive that I'm using for my demonstrations. And there's a folder here called Photos, and this is the photo library folder right here. It's on actually what I'm calling the photo library drive, and inside that is a photos folder. And you should always have one single parent folder on any hard drive you have in Lightroom, which aids in your ability to back up from one drive to another, and it makes it much easier if you ever have to repoint Lightroom over to the backup drive for some reason. So you always need a top-level parent folder. My suggestion is that within that top-level parent folder, you have a nice sequential, easy to understand set of folders that year is a really good way to do it. It expands nice and easily, and so I suggest that year folder is a really good way to go. And let's pop back over to photo library, and then within year, I suggest that month folders are a really good, easy way to organize things. And you can see that I have my month folders just in 0, 1 through 12, and then inside that are shoots. And the most important thing about your folders is that it's how you can stack your stuff up so that you can find it. Sorry, not that you can find it. So you can stack it up so that it's orderly and that you can back it up easily and you can restore it from backup. That's really the key for folders, is to be able to stack it up and back it up and restore it from backup if necessary. So don't try and make the folders do too much, because you can do so much more with metadata, which we're about to see. Now, if you're like me and you have to do location work and you're obviously not taking your entire photo library with you when you head out on the road, then it's good to have a kind of duplicate structure in your traveling computer. And in my computer, let's take a look here. So I have the boot drive on my laptop is a solid state drive, and that's where my Lightroom catalogs are kept, and my works in progress catalog, which has about 80,000 pictures in it right now. And then I've taken out the DVD drive and I've put in a spinning disk as a data drive inside there, and I have a structure here that looks very similar to the photo library that has year and month and project. And so that I try and keep things as orderly as possible, and then eventually the stuff is going to migrate from my works in progress drive into the photo library. Eventually, I'm going to be back, I'm done with a shoot, let's take everything from January and February and put them in their permanent home. We really want to think of this as a path of the images from the card into a permanent home that's nice and orderly and easy to understand, like a set of folders by month and project. Okay. Um, I also suggest that at minimum, photographers should be, making a duplicate copy of this on another drive, call it photo library backup, so it's real obvious which one's the primary and which one's the backup. Ideally, you should have another photo library backup too, and that should live somewhere else, your friend's house, your mom's house, whatever. Um, and it should be as clean and simple and easy to understand as possible. And Andrew, unless you have other folder questions, this is the point at which I want to sort of move on to how metadata can be useful in us really understanding what the pictures are about.
Sounds great, Peter. This is the exciting part.
Yes, the exciting part is metadata. All right, so let's move over there. So a couple of things. The first thing I want to look at here is this metadata filter bar. And I'm going to go ahead and just disappear that left-hand panel for the moment. Well, let's make sure we're selected on everything. So this catalog has 75,000 pictures in it. This is the stunt double catalog that I use in my demonstrations, and I use this to create the videos for the book, Organizing Your Photos. And so there's a lot of different pictures in here representing different kinds of shoots. Now the filter bar, which we see here in the view menu, has this ability to let us discover a huge amount about our photo collection by hitting this metadata tab. And we can see here that I can browse by date. If I was looking for, say, pictures from Christmas Day in 2012, I could go to 2012, December, and navigate down to December 25th and find those pictures. And so this information is put in the image files by the camera when you shoot the picture. You just need to make sure that your date and time are correct. I jump around time zones a lot, and I always try to keep my time zones local on my cameras. There are some people that like to always use UTC, that Greenwich Mean Time, but I personally always like local time, and the main thing is to be as regular as you can. So this is really handy to be able to browse by date. You don't have to do anything to get it in there. You can set these to different values, and the one I find extremely valuable after date is location. And so I've got this set here. When I click on the top and it shows 75,000 images, all of the values that are in this group populate into this list right here. And I have this set to, sorry, it's over here, to be hierarchical, which means that it shows with country, state, city, and location. So if I want to drill into US and into Maryland and into Kensington, I can find all the images in this catalog that are tagged with my house location. So this information is really valuable over time. I'm going to make this thing a little bit bigger because we're going to look at this in a couple of different ways. So one of the things that I find really useful about this is it reminds me of what's in my collection, if I've done my location tagging, but I can also use it to know things about, okay, where did I go in 2012? Well, I can click on 2012 and all of the places that I have images tagged for show up in this column, or I could say where'd I go in 2011. And the other thing you can do is you can actually reverse the order of this. And if you say, oh, I know I went to Mozambique, but I don't remember when I was there, I can click on Mozambique and I can see, oh yeah, I was there in 2011. So this ability to investigate into your metadata is, I, I find to be really, really handy, and I use this all the time. I have this set up to either date or location, and I do a lot of diving through this. One of the things, this also has got information about camera information here, the EXIF data. And one of the things I had to do recently that I think photographers can appreciate, I shoot a lot of wide open stuff with my 50-1.4 and my 85-1.8, and I was getting back focus. And so I went through and I looked at it, and actually I think I started with lens, and then I looked at the different cameras to see, well, is everything I shoot with the 50-1.4 back focused, or is there a difference between my D800 pictures and my D700 pictures? And it turned out that I had to adjust the focus. There's a little micro focus, custom focus adjustment on the D700 to compensate for a focus problem that I was having. And being able to investigate the metadata in this way and find just those pictures was incredibly useful. It's also useful. It's also been useful as I've looked, for instance, at how I might, if I know I need to shoot something with really high ISO, do I want to review the ISOs that I've used in the past and see, is that actually a usable picture at, at 25,600 ISO? And if you can go in there and see, well, it's not great, but it's definitely usable. You can hit the G key to get back to grid.
It's amazing what ISOs we can shoot at these days, Peter. We've got a flood of questions coming in about location, and a lot of DSLRs are starting to add GPS. A lot don't, and some people are wondering how you've put this level of accuracy on your location data. Are you putting this in manually? Are you using GPS? If so, how does the GPS resolve the precise location?
Okay, so that's a really great question, and let me start with the biggest part of that question, which is to say that I believe that human readable location tags are more valuable than what you're going to get out of GPS, and even the reverse lookup you get from GPS, where you can use the geotag coordinates and have it go fetch some kind of a name. And one of those reasons is that if we if we look at pictures I shot over at my friend's house, right? This is never going to come out of a reverse lookup. So this is far more valuable information to me than what a GPS tag is going to be able to automatically give. So instead of using GPS for most of my location tagging, what I'm doing is I'm location tagging in the import process. So where you have import photos and videos, I create metadata templates, and one of the things that I've done is created metadata templates for just locations or for particular shoots that I do again and again. So if I've got a bunch of images that I shot at my house, we can open up that preset and see what's in there. Let's go to personal. Well, let's go to Blue Ridge Summit. So this is a place I go to every summer, and so I've made this template, and I often come back with 200 or 300 or 500 pictures, and I'm just tagging it. Sorry for the scrolly. I'm tagging it with the sublocation, city, state, and country, and that's really easy to do. And so you can either tag it on the way in, or let's cancel out of that. Or if I find some images that need a tag, and I can find them easily here by let's go to to unknown location. Again, sorry for the scrolling. Um, so unknown country. We could see, I'm not fully caught up on everything. And if I were to say that, okay, this picture from the very beginning of my digital career, well, I know for a fact that that was shot at my house. I've created a location template that is location 3301 Oberon Street. And when I tag that, I can do that to a single image, or I could do that to 500 at a time really quickly. So using these templates can
Now,
be
does
really
Lightroom
handy as well. Yeah.
And can Lightroom learn these locations that you've created based on the GPS coordinates, or?
Yeah. So this is a thing I am unhappy that I have to say, is that one of the things they've done with Lightroom is they've actually separated what's happening with GPS coordinates and what's happening with the standard location tags, which are supported by like everybody. And so they've got this thing called map location, and this is what it'll do, like to iPhone pictures. So let me just go grab the iPhone pictures that I have. Camera, and the iPhone pictures are coming in with GPS data. And if we go to GPS, we can look and see who's got coordinates, and I can click on a particular image and go into map and find that picture, and I can see that picture and other pictures that I shot at the same place. And that's pretty cool. And you can even, zoom out. And so the problem is that that's not putting the right metadata on it. So for most people, for most of what they do, I'm going to suggest you use the regular location tags, which you can find in the metadata panel. If you go here into location, it's where you can find them, so you can set them. Now, I've also made some presets, and I do show how to do this in the book, that have the GPS data in there. So let's go find an image, and let's find one of my location tags. I'm going to tag this improperly, and I guess I should have. Let's undo that, and I'm going to of course it gets lost as soon as I do that. Didn't have that set up for demonstration. I don't think I can actually demonstrate that, but these, but I can show you that inside the preset, I've actually entered GPS tags. So I am GPS tagging some images. Like when I add this preset, I'm adding the location tags, and I'm adding a GPS tag. And I could show you how to do that, but right now I'd like to keep moving. It is all outlined in the book in movie form. So let's see. The question was, which tags do we use? I strongly suggest that we use the regular IPTC location tags. Those are interchangeable with Photoshop and many other programs. They're read by PhotoShelter, and so those are the best ones to use right now. The one exception is if you're in a place where there just aren't meaningful location names. So for instance, when I was in certain parts of Botswana where there isn't a name necessarily for one of these places, but if you have that on a map here, that can be really valuable. So those become more valuable when you have images that are in places where there aren't real specific place names that would have any meaning to you. There is an entire chapter on location, and I really do think it's one of the most important ways that you can tag images. I think photographers' brains are really um, very attuned to where they shot a picture, and I think most people remember that about their pictures. I want to move next into keywords. I'm going to close up the histogram here, and I'm going to close up the metadata panel and open up my keyword list, because this, I think, is one of the places you can get a really important it's a great place to put your pictures into multiple different kinds of tagged groups to let you find them easily. And there's a couple of things I want to say. So first of all, I strongly suggest that you use your keywords in a hierarchy, which means that, you know, they fold up and they fold down like this, and that you use a small number of top-level hierarchies so you can make it easy to find any particular set of pictures. And so let's take a look at how I do this, say, with my jobs. Anytime I shoot an assignment, I'll make a keyword for the client or the project, and I'll add that keyword to those images when the images get imported. Now, when I do a whole bunch of assignments for somebody, like PBS, I've done not just multiple assignments, but actually even multiple campaigns. Each one of these is a campaign. Then, you know, so this is a campaign, and each of these are individuals who were shot for a campaign. I tag the images from that shoot. In this case, you know, it's just the name of the person. This makes it easy for me to find these pictures at any point in the future, even years down the road. And you can see that this kind of hierarchy is nice and easy to navigate. It's really easy to make these. You know, if I did another NewsHour assignment right here, I could make a new one by right-clicking on it and create a keyword tag inside PBS, and we'll call this NewsHour. And that will end up inside PBS, and I can drag Hari into there. And so you can rework this hierarchy according to what's useful to you and according to the way that your collection grows. So a lot of people will start out with one big long list, and then you can just start bringing that list together according to what's useful. So I like to tag all my assignments. That's actually a pretty easy thing to understand, right? You know, you tag by client name, then you tag by the assignment, and if you need to break up the assignment here, then you can, actually that's not the one I wanted to look for. Let's look at this. So if you have an assignment with a whole bunch of, you know, different parts to the assignment, you can tag those by keyword and you know, subdivide in that manner. So this can be as simple or complex as you need it to be. It can grow. You can, you know, you could rename these. If you say, oh, I don't like that keyword jobs, I'm going to call that assignments. You can just change it, and it may take a minute to change here. There it is. I also tag by event, and so when I go out and shoot something, you know, if I'm shooting something with my family, I can tag that event, and then I can go find those pictures with a single click here. And this hierarchy grows naturally as I shoot more stuff, and so it, you know, it starts simple and it gets more and more complex. And one of the things I do show in the book is how you can, if you haven't done any of this yet, how you can start by putting things into big buckets and then subdividing those buckets. You know, you could take all of your client work and put it into a keyword called assignments. And then as time permits, or as you have some reason to, you could, make a new keyword inside your assignments keyword for, the client, and then dump all of the images from that client into that keyword. You create keyword tag inside. That's all you have to do to make one go inside there. All you have to do to add images here is to just drag them in. So let's say I'm going to create a keyword tag inside this trip with Josie, and I'll say, let's say for some reason you wanted to remember what restaurants we went to. I can create that inside there, and then we can grab, what do we have, 3 images here, and just drag them in there. And then it's easy to find them at any time with hitting that arrow, and that shows you those images. Now, if you've forgotten how you have organized your keywords, this is really nice here. This filter keywords will show you everything that you've got that has that particular keyword on it. And while our folders are supposed to be really neatly arranged, this area tends to be a lot more untidy, right? Because what you think of your pictures and how they go together and what kind of tags you want to put on them, that changes over time. And you don't necessarily do things the same way each time. So this ability to find it through this keyword filters, it's really, I find that to be really useful. So
Peter, along those lines,
yeah.
We've got a question coming in here about how adding these keywords to photos leads to a useful search result. So they're asking if you're adding these keywords for your own search that you might do in Lightroom, or if that might be available on the internet through, I don't know, a service maybe like PhotoShelter.
Yeah.
How that actually leads to a useful search result, either for you,
yeah, awesome
a
question,
photographer or a photo buyer.
Yeah. So I think the first thing, just from an understanding point of view, is that the photographer needs to understand that the large majority of what they are doing to keyword their pictures is probably going to be about them finding their own stuff, and that is a really different thing than making images available for purchase, to be found and purchased out on the internet. So because we're talking here today about organizing your pictures, the organization for your own pictures, my strong suggestion is, as you think about that process, what you're really doing is just saying, what is a meaningful term for me, and really what is a meaningful term for me to use to filter, to hide everything I don't necessarily want to see. And that's just a really different process than search engine optimization keywording. And you can download and import keyword lists that will help you add search engine optimization terms, and I show how to do that in the book as well. But really, from an organizational standpoint of organizing my stuff for me, it's not about, do you think of cow, or do you also need to have cattle, cows, bovine, farm animals, beef? I personally don't see that as a thing that you would necessarily want to have on your, all throughout my collection, just because that's not how I look for pictures. I'm looking for pictures through, typically, and let's move over here into collections and talk about smart collections and this other method of filtering. So smart collections, they are a type of collection, but really what they are, let's double click and open it up, is a set of rules. And in this case, I've got a set of smart collections that are based upon different ratings, and I have a really well-defined way that I like to use the stars. And so I can say, show me everything that is greater than or equal to 5 stars. And this brings those images together. I was messing with this on the demo 2 days ago, so let's get rid of that term. It's going to look more logical now. Okay. So here's everything 4-star and better throughout the entire collection, or everything 3-star and better. So this is another really great way to filter your images for quality. And I have some very strong suggestions about how this ought to be used. You know, in my case, 0 stars means it has yet to be rated. 1 star means I'm going to keep it, but not necessarily show it. That might be like a panorama element, or just a utility or a diary image of some sort. 2 stars means that I could show it to the client. 3 stars means I'd recommend it to the client, even if the client is me. 4 stars means that it's a best of collection type image, and 5 stars means it's a portfolio quality image. And so I use these in as consistent a way as I can across the entire collection. So as you think about your smart collections, these are really places to gather images together according to some kind of characteristic of the image. So it might be that you frequently want to find everything that's in my collection that's a TIFF. You know, so here are going to be pano stitches, or I want to find everything that's a video file. These smart collections are really handy for that, but they're not the place you want to do your most important organization. And let's move into that, because that's the most important part. So store, tag, create. We are now in the create part. And in creation, we think about bringing images together to do something. So I was talking earlier at the beginning here about a job. So I've made these collection sets, and again, they have, you know, kind of a hierarchy like what we saw over there in keywords, where I can see, I can put all the images together from a shoot. I can organize this as deeply as I want it to, as it makes sense to me. So we can go back to our friend Lila. And so there's all the images from the shoot. And in this case, I didn't proof them to the client. What I did was I said, okay, here's the 9 images that tell the story. They were running, you know, running late on the assignment. They didn't even want to proof it, and then this was the one picture that they ended up using as the ad, as the, you know, as the finished piece. And so I'm keeping all of this information wrangled over here in collections. And so even though this was something that happened, you know, almost 2 years ago, I know which images were sent to the client as, you know, these tell the story, and which image was the hero image that ultimately was sent out to them. And so keeping that information all wrangled within here is, it's great for a couple of reasons. One is that I know this is where I'm doing the work. Another is that you can keep sequences, and that you can build this out as you need it. But let's take a look at another assignment that has a much more complex need. So this was, I did 2 different shoots over in South Africa, and this one was 2011, and I can tell this by looking at the file names. This one was 2012, and there were thousands of images. This one, there's 4,800 images. This one has 3,600 images. And so I did some kind of breakdown according to subject matter, and this was, you know, this helped me understand the pictures. But the place where this really became helpful is when I started having to put projects together. And I've done quite a few projects from this particular shoot. So for instance, we've hung prints that we've exhibited in local areas that tell the story of the organization. And so I'm able to make a collection here, and so making a collection is as simple as right-clicking and let's make one. And so I can make a collection. In this case, I'll include that one selected photo. And I didn't put that in the right place, so let's put it in the right place. Again, you can move these around. And if I say, all right, well, I'm doing a thing for Jonathan and I need, a handful of images, I'll drop them all in here. And now I can work with these and I can, work with sequencing, look at it, run through. Does that tell the story? No, I mean, that's not telling any real story, but I think you get the idea. G for grid. So having the ability to put these images aside without having to create additional copies, and really even without having to be back in the studio and connected, lets me create interesting groupings and valuable groupings. And this is really what I mean by create, is I have the ability to put the pictures together in a valuable way. And one of the things that's pretty cool here is, I could save a sequence like this, and then if I want to try a different sequence, let's just select all, and then I'll right-click and say create collection. So this is telling me I want to create a new collection, and I'm going to include the selected photos. I'm going to put it in the same place, and print sequence 2. Name these things something that makes sense to you, so when you go back to them, you can know why you made that, and I can create that. And so I have, I have this one, and now I have this other one, and if I want to start, oh, well, really, I should put the travelers in the front, and I should, change the sequencing around in some way. So I can do all of that, and I can have multiple sequences of the same images. And I can even say, oh, that's not as strong a picture. I'm going to right-click on it and remove that from the collection. And so I can work on this fully independently of this, and really sort of massage my storytelling and get the pictures correct. And so this is all, a project based, but then I do the same kind of thing when I'm doing portfolio, and I go through this in pretty good detail in the book, where I show how you can start by, let's start by filtering down to just the 5-star images. We can select all of those and create a new portfolio, and let's right-click and say create collection, 14 demo, include selected photos, create, and now I have this new group of images that I can start playing around with as a portfolio. I'm starting by filtering, and now I'm creating.
So Peter, we're getting some questions about how
Yeah.
files are managed as you're creating collections. And just as a point of clarification, you're not actually duplicating the image files on your hard drive when you're creating these collections, right?
Yeah, so that's the beautiful thing, and really just an absolutely essential thing to understand. If you can do the work you need to do to organize all your stuff within a Lightroom catalog, then you really can just leave all the pictures in the place they were in, and you don't have to move them around, and you're not creating a difference between your primary copy of your stuff and your backup copy. And the most important of your pictures need to be in lots of different places. And so if I don't know what we'll see here, we're working without a net, but okay, these are all of the different collections that this particular image is in. I just right-clicked on it and it brought up the context menu, and it showed me that it's in all of these different collections. And this is really, I think this is really critical, is that by using collections, these are just, pointers to the same original image, then you don't have to duplicate the picture. You don't have to move it around into a bunch of different places. The storage stays the same, and the storage is orderly at the same point that your creative process is not orderly. Your creative process is messy. That's the nature of the creative process.
And so these images that live in collections then are, this is really just kind of like a list of pictures, and it's showing as thumbnails.
It's a playlist in iTunes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a, and I can make as many different playlists as I want without duplicating the pictures. And that frees me to not worry about preserving the image files, not worry about the storage layer. The storage, I set it and forget it, stack it up and back it up. But the work I do to try and bring these things together, to create with it, is messy and multifaceted and used for multiple different things. I want to show real quickly here how you can use Lightroom and this work that you do to create images, to create collections, and to put your images together in interesting ways, to then publish and connect straight to your audience as part of the creative process. And so, one of the things that I've got here is this set of images. I'm not sure I've got the right one selected, but it'll work for the demonstration here. If I've got the images selected down to the sequence I want, then I can use the publish services down here to push these images straight to PhotoShelter, and you can even push them up and have them retain, you can have it get a numbering so that the sequencing shows up the same. It's really easy. So, essentially I would just take these images that I've created this, final portfolio collection in, and just select, and then create a new published collection in PhotoShelter and call it, my excellent portfolio. Include the selected photos and create. And then these images are now a button away from going up to PhotoShelter and becoming a new portfolio. And you can see here this thing I have, this pictorial. This was one I used in the book as a demonstration. I actually showed how I created it as a portfolio, and then how I uploaded it, and how it ended up in PhotoShelter up here as as its own portfolio. And there's a direct connection. And if I were to take one of these pictures and say, oh, you know what, I think I didn't get the color balance just right, or I need to do something else to this, I actually have the ability back in Lightroom to make a change to that picture and then push those changes back up to PhotoShelter, which I think this is a really interesting area of growth, where you can have your Lightroom catalog connect onto web services, and it gives you this really short and excellent story of going from the store tag and create, the creation you've made, out to the world to either offer your images for sale or to show them off as a portfolio. You there, Andrew?
Yeah, I'm still here.
We're at 5 o'clock.
I think we actually ought to keep going here, because we've got a lot of great questions.
I'm happy to take questions
at
this point. Yeah.
I
know there's a lot we didn't get to.
Yeah. I think we could probably go on until about 5:15 if we want to. And if
sure.
there's anything else you want to cover, I think we've got time, and we've actually still got 95% of our original audience still online here. So
awesome. Thank you, people.
For a little bit.
Yeah, let's do it. If you want to hit me with some questions, or I'd be happy to. One thing I do want to show is sort of how I've constructed the book to show people, to put this all together.
Sure. In
book form.
Yeah, let's run through that, and then I'll wait for a few more questions to come in, and we'll start asking those as they.
Cool. As they and I've got plenty to talk about. If if you want me to just keep talking. Um, so I am really excited about this because I've had to explain this material to a lot of people a lot of times over the years, and it's really great to be able to put it in a form that people seem to really get. And so the way we've written this is to write it as a book that has 200 pages and 7 hours of video, and so you get a PDF, and it looks, it looks like a regular old book here, except that it has these things in the table of contents that are videos. So for instance, if you were interested in how published services works and how that portfolio thing I was describing worked, you could go to the table of contents and hit this deliver shoots link, and it would take you to, upload online portfolio or deliver shoots. It describes the entire process, or it describes not the entire process, but an understanding of the process. And then in this case, it's a 4-minute and 40-second video.
Tell us, where can we actually buy this book, Peter?
Yeah. So Andrew, what we've got is this this multimedia book, which is delivered as a PDF with these attached videos. The place that I would be most happy for people to buy it is at thedamnbook.com, and in the Damn Bookshop, you can see organizing your photos with Lightroom 5. That's this book, and then that takes you over to our shopping cart at Shopify. Very interesting service there, and that's where you can buy it, and you can get it as either a digital delivery, or you can get the exact same thing delivered on a DVD, or you can get it as a printed book. But of course, the videos don't play unless you have put the accompanying DVD in and play that on your computer. At the moment, we are computer only and not iPad compatible due to the issues with having the video files there, but we're hoping to get that out the door in an iPad compatible fashion before too long. But at the moment, that's it's a thing you play on your computer, and you get it at thedamnbook.com.
Yeah, and I've got a copy of the hard copy book sitting on my desk that I actually refer to pretty frequently as we are working on designing product at PhotoShelter. So it really has become kind of an industry standard text. And so for those of you listening at home, if you don't have a copy of this, you really ought to. And so it's a great read. So, Peter, I think the question that's on everybody's mind is, what do I do with all of these years of photos that I've got sitting on random hard drives that I haven't gone through and organized? I know personally, as a professional photographer, I've got all of my work that I've done for clients well organized, and they're all in PhotoShelter and in Lightroom. But I've got all of these photos that I shot on vacations and family trips and things like that that are a disorganized mess. So
yeah,
what do I do now to get that in order?
Well, that is probably the toughest problem in organization that anybody has, which is sorting out from your old mess. And so a lot of it depends upon the specifics, but there are some important general guidelines that I'd like to give people when they ask that question. And the first thing is to try and get everything, at least one of everything you want to keep, together into a consolidated storage mechanism. So if everything in the world that you have digitally could fit on OneDrive as the primary copy of that data, then just get it all onto OneDrive. If it takes a 4-drive RAID or NAS or whatever kind of multi-drive unit, gather it all together in one single primary archive. And really the stuff that you leave sitting around in, oh, well, there's a bunch of stuff sitting on that drive over there, and there's some stuff sitting over there, or there's some stuff on zip disks or CDs or DVDs. If it's lying around like that, it's in real danger of being forgotten about and not being migrated forward. It's in real danger of the actual mechanism malfunctioning, so that the the optical disc, the DVD, Blu-ray, or CD could become unreadable. Or if it's a if it's a real mechanism like a hard drive, then that can become unreadable. So you want to bring everything together, and then the the thing that I suggest for most people is drop it into a catalog. And now, if you know that what you've got are mostly photographs, and if in hopefully in a perfect world you'd have mostly um, you know the original photographs all consolidated together. If you could do that and then drop those into a big catalog and examine them through the catalog to try and see what you've got there, and to keep a record of what you've got there, and then you can begin the process of sorting that stuff out. But really, first thing is consolidate it in one place, catalog it, and then hopefully um, as fast as possible make a backup copy of that new consolidated information. And it's fine if it's just a simple duplicate. If you've got everything on one drive, can you put it onto another drive of the same size and unplug that drive? If nothing else, now you've protected yourself against kind of 90% of the bad things that would happen. If you can take another copy of that off site, then you've probably protected yourself against another 90% or more of the other bad things that could happen, like fire or theft. And then work through that older stuff as necessary. And it's as you need to look for something. If you need to look for pictures of your kids or old client photos, or it's your dad's birthday or whatever it is that makes you want to revisit that material, if you can revisit it through the catalog, do a little bit of tagging, and do your tagging and your creating through the catalog if possible, and gradually over time you can build order into that older collection. And I actually have a couple of methods that I show in the Organizing Your Photos book um, to both collect that material together, to do some sorting between the duplicates, and then to start organizing stuff that doesn't have tags on it yet. A handful of big buckets you can drop it into, like this is family work, this is client work, this is stuff from California, this is stuff from New York. That makes it much easier to find as you actually want to do something with the pictures.
Yeah, that's actually quite a relief, because I've got a lot of photos that need to be organized, and now I feel like I'm a little bit off the hook as to having to go through and brute force organize all of that stuff. So I agree. Yeah, as I go back and look through the images, I'll organize them as I go, and I guess theoretically, if I'm not actually interested in looking back at them, they're probably not all that important. So
Yeah, you don't want
a
it to
good
be
advice.
you have to drink the ocean kind of thing. No, if you make the task too big, like you're going to go through every picture and you're going to keyword every single picture with who's in it, and you're going to location tag every picture, you're going to you get a few hours into it and say, oh my God, this is horrible. But if you could drop them into big buckets, this is personal work, this is back when I was a young and irresponsible youth pictures, then then the process is a lot easier and faster and more fun.
Well,
Tagging
great.
can be fun.
Well, I'm definitely energized by this conversation. I'm looking forward to actually digging into some of those photos this evening. And I just want to thank you for the time that you've given us. And I know that we've got a lot of great questions that have come in today, and I have a feeling we're probably going to be doing another iteration of this topic on the webinar, and maybe getting into some advanced techniques in Lightroom and organization. So with that, I would like to thank you for your time, Peter.
Thank you so much, Andrew. It's a pleasure to work with you guys. And I'm saying this because I mean it. I think the work that PhotoShelter does to support professional photographers is really outstanding, and I'm really happy and proud and pleased to be part of this really remarkable curriculum that you guys have put together. This information to help people practice their craft and make a living at it. And I've been a big fan of your published material for a long time, and really happy to be part of it.
Well, thanks, Peter.